I do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Victoria. Note: the name of the King or Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland for the time being is to be substituted from time to time with proper terms of reference thereto. Declaration of Qualification. I do declare and testify that I am by law duly qualified to be appointed a member of the Senate of Canada, or, as the case may be, and that I am legally or equitably seized as of freehold for my own use and benefit of lands or tenements held in free and common soccage, or seized or possessed for my own use and benefit of lands or tenements held in franc-lieu or in roture, as the case may be, in the province of Nova Scotia, or, as the case may be, of the value of $4,000 over and above all rents, dues, debts, mortgages, charges, and encumbrances due or payable out of or charged on or affecting the same, and that I have not collusively or colorably obtained a title to or become possessed of the said lands and tenements, or any part thereof for the purpose of enabling me to become a member of the Senate of Canada, or, as the case may be, and that my real and personal property are together worth $4,000 over and above my debts and liabilities. The 6th Schedule End Note 79. Primary production from non-renewable natural resources and forestry resources. 1. For the purposes of Section 92 of this Act, a. Production from a non-renewable natural resources primary production therefrom if 1. It is in the form in which it exists upon its recovery or severance from its natural state, or 2. It is a product resulting from processing or refining the resource, and is not a manufactured product or a product resulting from refining crude oil, refining upgraded heavy crude oil, refining gases, or liquids derived from coal, or refining a synthetic equivalent of crude oil, and b. Production from a forestry resources primary production therefrom if it consists of saw logs, poles, lumber, wood chips, sawdust, or any other primary wood product, or wood pulp, and is not a product manufactured from wood. Canada Act 1982. End note. AT. An act to give effect to a request by the Senate and House of Commons of Canada, whereas Canada has requested and consented to the enactment of an Act of the Parliament of the United Kingdom to give effect to the provisions hereinafter set forth, and the Senate and the House of Commons of Canada in Parliament assembled have submitted an address to Her Majesty requesting that Her Majesty may graciously be pleased to cause a bill to be laid before the Parliament of the United Kingdom for that purpose. Be it therefore enacted by the Queen's most excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the Lords Spiritual and Temporal and Commons, in this present Parliament assembled, and by the authority of the same, as follows. 1. The Constitution Act, 1982 set out in Schedule B to this Act is hereby enacted for, and shall have the force of law in Canada, and shall come into force, as provided in that Act. 2. No act of the Parliament of the United Kingdom passed after the Constitution Act, 1982 comes into force shall extend to Canada as part of its law. 3. So far as it is not contained in Schedule B, the French version of this Act is set out in Schedule A to this Act, and has the same authority in Canada as the English version thereof. 4. This Act may be cited as the Canada Act 1982, Constitution Act, 1982, End note. 81. Part 1. Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Whereas Canada is founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law, guarantee of rights and freedoms. Marginal note. Rights and freedoms in Canada. 1. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees the rights and freedoms set out in it subject only to such reasonable limits prescribed by law as can be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. Fundamental freedoms. Marginal note. Fundamental freedoms. 2. Everyone has the following fundamental freedoms. A. Freedom of conscience and religion. B. Freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication. C. Freedom of peaceful assembly, and D. Freedom of association. Democratic rights. Marginal note. Democratic rights of citizens. 3. Every citizen of Canada has the right to vote in an election of members of the House of Commons or of a legislative assembly and to be qualified for membership therein. Marginal note: maximum duration of legislative bodies. 4. 1. No House of Commons and no Legislative Assembly shall continue for longer than 5 years from the date fixed for the return of the writs of a general election of its members. End note. 82. Marginal note: continuation in special circumstances. 2. In time of real or apprehended war, invasion, or insurrection, a House of Commons may be continued by Parliament, and a Legislative Assembly may be continued by the legislature beyond 5 years, if such continuation is not opposed by the votes of more than 1/3 of the members of the House of Commons, or the Legislative Assembly, as the case may be. End note. 83. Marginal note: annual sitting of legislative bodies. 5. There shall be a sitting of Parliament and of each legislature at least once every 12 months. End note. 84. Mobility rights. Marginal note: mobility of citizens. 6. 1. Every citizen of Canada has the right to enter, remain in, and leave Canada. Marginal note: rights to move and gain livelihood. 2. Every citizen of Canada, and every person who has the status of a permanent resident of Canada has the right: A. To move to and take up residence in any province, and B. To pursue the gaining of a livelihood in any province. Marginal note: limitation. 3. The rights specified in subsection 2 are subject to: A. Any laws or practices of general application in force in a province other than those that discriminate among persons primarily on the basis of province of present or previous residence, and B. Any laws providing for reasonable residency requirements as a qualification for the receipt of publicly provided social services. Marginal note: affirmative action programs, 4 subsections 2 and 3, do not preclude any law, program, or activity that has as its object the amelioration in a province of conditions of individuals in that province who are socially or economically disadvantaged if the rate of employment in that province is below the rate of employment in Canada. Legal rights. Marginal note: life, liberty, and security of person. 7. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of the person, and the right not to be deprived thereof except in accordance with the principles of fundamental justice. Marginal note: search or seizure. 8. Everyone has the right to be secure against unreasonable search or seizure. Marginal note: detention or imprisonment. 9. Everyone has the right not to be arbitrarily detained or imprisoned. Marginal note: arrest or detention. 10. Everyone has the right on arrest or detention: A. To be informed promptly of the reasons therefor. B. To retain and instruct counsel without delay, and to be informed of that right, and C. To have the validity of the detention determined by way of habeas corpus, and to be released, if the detention is not lawful. Marginal note: proceedings in criminal and penal matters. 11. Any person charged with an offense has the right: A. To be informed without unreasonable delay of the specific offense. B. To be tried within a reasonable time. C. Not to be compelled to be a witness in proceedings against that person in respect of the offense. D. To be presumed innocent until proven guilty according to law in a fair and public hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal. E. Not to be denied reasonable bail without just cause. F. Except in the case of an offense under military law tried before a military tribunal to the benefit of trial by jury, where the maximum punishment for the offense is imprisonment for 5 years or a more severe punishment. G. Not to be found guilty on account of any act or omission, unless, at the time of the act or omission, it constituted an offense under Canadian or international law, or was criminal according to the general principles of law recognized by the community of nations. H. If finally acquitted of the offense, not to be tried for it again, and, if finally found guilty and punished for the offense, not to be tried or punished for it again, and I. If found guilty of the offense, and if the punishment for the offense has been varied between the time of commission and the time of sentencing, to the benefit of the lesser punishment. Marginal note: treatment or punishment. 12. Everyone has the right not to be subjected to any cruel and unusual treatment or punishment. Marginal note: self-crimination. 13. A witness who testifies in any proceedings has the right not to have any incriminating evidence so given used to incriminate that witness in any other proceedings except in a prosecution for perjury or for the giving of contradictory evidence. Marginal note: interpreter. 14. A party or witness in any proceedings who does not understand or speak the language in which the proceedings are conducted, or who is deaf, has the right to the assistance of an interpreter.